Renard Hardware Store. It's a locally owned store which offers tools, supplies, and painting supplies. The business is located on the main street of the city. The store competes against medium and large franchises within 25 minutes of them. They've been in business for over 50 years. Still remains owned by the founder's family and retains loyal customer base. The grandson of the founders operates business now. While he appreciates his loyalty, they are not attracting younger families that live in the area or recently relocated in the area. The owner also wants to offer handy services for busy families and his loyal customers who are getting older and need trustworthy, reliable handy services. They would like to change their business name to Renard Hardware and Services. The online presence would help Renard Hardware and Services to increase its customer base, and also this would help the business to increase revenue and be able to compete with the larger and the medium-sized franchises in the area. In order to best serve Renard Hardware, we brought together a team of highly qualified and motivated consultants to take their business to the next level. This team consists of 4 experienced information systems professionals, each whom will be fully committed to the successful implementation of the project within the scope. As consultants, we understand the importance of identifying our stakeholders. These stakeholders may be directly or indirectly affected by the project. Getting our stakeholders involved in a project will be very critical to the success of the project. In this case, our project stakeholders are the business owner, suppliers, financial institutions like PayPal, bank, and merchant services to be able to receive credit card transactions for payments.
One of the key things we as a consulting team wanted to accomplish was to properly identify and specify the users of our system. Our first priority, as Brainerd Hardware has stressed to our consulting team, is our customers. Our new online platform must continue to service our customers, both new and existing, with excellent service. Beyond this, we have noted that other users of our system will include suppliers of inventory and products, the financial institutions we will work with, subcontractors, and our web development team who will maintain our web platform.
To grow their business in the community, Renard Hardware wants to attract new, younger customers and retain existing customers through new services like online shopping and scheduling handyman services. They would like to change the name to Renard Hardware and Services. Customers will be able to view or order inventory for pickup or delivery for a small fee based on the distance. If they need to schedule a handyman service, they can select the service or a favorite contractor, then schedule an appointment. They can also modify an existing appointment to suit their schedule. Customers will be able to pay online for both inventory and services with major credit cards, PayPal, Square, and directly through their checking account. New customers who sign up for the first time will receive 10% for their order or service, and existing customers get 15% off their first order or services. Customers will be able to create and manage preferred items, preferred days, times for services, and customers would also be able to track and use their loyalty reward points. Contractors can create and manage accounts, available services, and availability for work.
The work breakdown structure for the Reynard's Hardware and Services online store project was created using 5 tasks at level 2: design, build, test, deploy, and project management. The design, build, test, and deploy tasks were broken down into subtasks to create the user interface, database, and infrastructure. These subtasks were then broken down to create the online shopping, appointment scheduling, customer, and contractor management work packages. The project management task was broken down into the initiate, plan, execute, monitor and control, and close subtasks to manage the project. More detail is available in the Work Breakdown Structure Dictionary on the following 5 slides. An important aspect of managing change is to have a defined process for receiving changes into the project. The Raynard's Hardware and Services online store project requires that a change request form be completed for every change submitted to the project. This change request form, shown here and on the next slide, includes information about the project manager and sponsor, details about the change, including the date the change is requested for, the contact information for the person submitting the change, the reason for the change, a description of the impact analysis, authorizations and approvals, and information about the change closeout. The work breakdown structure for the Raynard's Hardware and Services online store project was created using 5 tasks at level 2: design, build, test, deploy, and project management. The design, build, test, and deploy tasks were broken down into subtasks to create the user interface, database, and infrastructure. These subtasks were then broken down to create the online shopping, appointment scheduling, customer, and contractor management work packages. The project management task was broken down into the initiate, plan, execute, monitor and control, and close subtasks to manage the project. More detail is available in the Work Breakdown Structure Dictionary on the following 5 slides.
Our first phase of our project schedule is planning. Here we'll identify the scope through a statement of work and a program plan and achieving sign-off from our sponsor. Then we'll move to planning, where there's a more detailed project plan based off of the program plan, and it'll also acquire approval or sign-off. Once we have the statement of work and an understanding of the scope and the time frame in which we need to deliver our product in, here we can begin looking at the business rules and themes and epic breakdowns for our upcoming sprints. Next, we'll head into the phase for design, where we'll start sketching out wireframes for our customer, putting in infrastructure configuration, and creating a database to support our design. The next portion of the project plan is the sprints themselves to develop the online presence. We will deliver through 3 releases. The first 2 releases will be a series of 3 sprints. Each sprint will have selected user stories, development of those user stories, internal testing, user acceptance testing by our customer to get initial feedback, and then eventual deployment of that work. When we come to our first release, that product will be live for our customer to get their customers online shopping. The next release for scheduling a handyman will be very similar in going through 3 sprints to eventually deploy in a release the ability for subcontractors to create an online profile and for Renard's customers to schedule a handyman for various services. The third release will be any remaining stories and fixes that we weren't able to get to in the first 2 releases. The idea is that we continue build value for our customers while delivering a minimal viable product so that they can start bringing their product in a whole new way to their customers.
Like the quote from our textbook reads, effective project communications ensure that we get the right information to the right person at the right time and in a cost-effective manner. This quote itself outlines the importance of the communication plan. For this project, we have created a specific communication plan that outlines all necessary activities in our project plan, including meetings, reporting specifics, and communications. This communication plan is very important and will be our navigation tool that we will all follow. It is policy-driven for the sake of our stakeholders, meaning that this document is a high-level way for our stakeholders and team members to follow the specifics of our project and understand how we will effectively communicate with each other. With the help of this plan, we will have formed effective communication methods that will ultimately help us align all involved groups to be able to work together proficiently.
The communication plan for the Reynard's hardware and service projects consists of 2 key sections. The first section, shown here, includes the plans for the 3 types of communication to be executed on the project: meetings, reporting, and communication artifacts. Meetings include the project kickoff, daily stand-up, sprint planning, backlog refinement, sprint review, and sprint retrospective. Reporting will be provided for the budget, project milestones, and sprint burn down. Communication artifacts include the product roadmap, product backlog, sprint plan, sprint retrospective outcome, and the sprint burn down chart. For each type of communication, the audience, the method of communication, frequency and duration of communication, and the person responsible for the communication are listed. Where necessary, the approver names are also included in the communication plan. The second section of the communication plan includes the stakeholder names, stakeholder title, and the stakeholder roles and responsibilities. Including stakeholder information in the communication plan ensures that the entire project team has the same understanding of the project participants and the roles and responsibilities each stakeholder has on the project.
Importance of the project budget. As a team, we have identified 3 key reasons why the project budget is very important. First, it's the drive behind the project funding. It tells the stakeholders how much money is going to be needed for the project and the time that the money will be needed. With the budget, it gives us the ability to hire people, procure equipment, and the materials that we'll be needing for the project. The second basis for the project is also serves as the cost control. By measuring the variance, we can determine if the project is actually progressing or if there is any corrective action that are needed. This can be accomplished by using the cost baseline. Next is prioritization. If the initial plan funds are not sufficient to complete a project at once, the budget will be the support for the team to prioritize which parts of the deliverables can be completed based on the remaining budget, while also simultaneously determine which deliverables that we can actually put on hold until we get additional funding for the project.
Our team has prepared an estimated budget for Menard Hardware and Services. We've categorized the estimated budget based on the different phases of delivery of the website. It's broken down: project management, project planning, design, development, website backend training and materials, and services, thus matching our project plan. We've provided estimated hours and average rates for our employees, thus making an estimated budget. In this document, we've also provided a space for actual and the difference, and allowing a section to show whether we are over or under budget. In addition, approval statuses for each of the categorized areas. This document is not only to be used at the beginning of the project, but throughout the project in status meetings.
An effective risk management requires continuous processes that enables the team to evaluate, analyze, and mitigate risks that can have negative impact on the project's success. The following slide includes our risk register.
On this next slide, you will see the risk register. The entire project team, including the project sponsors and other key stakeholders, prepared for the Reynard's hardware and service online store project. The risk register includes a reference ID to uniquely identify each risk, a description of the risk, the category of each risk, the probability of the risk occurring, and the impact the risk has on the project as assessed by the project team, the risk response strategies identified by the project team, the owner of each risk, the current status of each risk, and any additional comments. You will notice that the risks are prioritized based on the probability and impact so that the team can be focused on the most critical risks impacting the project.
The risk register provides our team with a plethora of important information that can help us make decisions. It also provides many important benefits, including giving us the ability to understand the nature of the risk the project faces, our ability as a team to mitigate that risk, the ability to prioritize the risk based on the effect of the project, to provide awareness based on the extent of all of the risks, an option to report risks at any time, to serve as the key repository for all of our risk information, and, most importantly, to provide a clear status update of each risk at any time. As a consulting team, our next goal was to further assist Renard Hardware by implementing an organizational structure. In order to best meet their needs, we decided to reorganize the structure of the family-run business into a functional organizational structure style, which helps to identify and solidify the core functions of this business and implement a proper chain of command up to the top. In this way, Renard Hardware would be able to account for all facets of their business, retain their already hardworking staff, and use the resources outside the business to their maximum advantage. As seen on the previous slide, we have broken up the structure of Renard Hardware into 5 functions, which are finance, sales and marketing, logistics and operations, technology, and HR. Each of these functions of the business are structured to share responsibility of the business, as well as provide the owner with a person accountable for each major function. Each pillar, with the exception of finance due to the confidentiality of the business, will be given the authority to hire consultants or workers outside of Renard Hardware to deploy assets to improve the business. It is here, for example, where our handymen and handywomen will be a part of our business.
Change management is a very important aspect of a well-managed project. Change management starts with the team gathering together to outline a plan for how the team will manage change. This plan describes how all changes on the project, whether they be requirements changes, funding, resources, or other types of change, will be managed and controlled, and how the team will respond to change. A well-documented change management plan prevents scope creep. A change management plan must address the type of changes, whether they be technical, emergency, or requirement, the stakeholders who have authority to request changes, how the impact will be assessed for the change, how the cost of the change will be determined, how the change will be identified, tracked, and controlled, who will review and approve the change, and the audience the change management plan is intended for.
This slide is a formal representation of our change management plan. There are 3 phases: Phase 1, prepare to change; Phase 2, manage change; and Phase 3, reinforce change. In Phase 1, prepare for change, there are 3 distinct toll gates. Toll gate 1, request is submitted. Toll gate 2, the request is reviewed, and a go, no-go decision on the request is made. And then toll gate 3 begins with planning. The second phase is managing the change. This picks up mid-toll gate 3 during planning. This includes reviewing the sprint schedule and epic with client. This also is a go, no-go decision on the final implementation schedule. Toll gate 4 in managed change is writing the user stories, bringing them into sprints, conducting development business as usual, and then throughout implementation, the deliverer will be evaluate and report on the status of the work and any issues encountered. It's important to notice that implementation 4, because we are an agile development group, that the change requests may have to go across multiple sprints. So tollgate 4 may go through multiple iterations. Finally, phase 3, reinforce change, has one final tollgate, and that's tollgate 5, assessment. This is where we look at the implementation results. We evaluate the process for any improvements. We assemble the results and final financial analysis into a results report, which then is provided as a deliverable to the client, and then we implement any corrective actions identified.
An important aspect of managing change is to have a defined process for receiving changes into the project. The Reynard's Hardware and Services online store project requires that a change request form be completed for every change submitted to the project. This change request form, shown here and on the next slide, includes information about the project manager and sponsor, details about the change, including the date the change is requested for, the contact information for the person submitting the change, the reason for the change, a description of the impact analysis, authorizations and approvals, and information about the change closeout. Another important aspect of change management is to have a log of all the changes that were submitted on the project. The change management log used for the Reynard's Hardware and Services online store project includes information about the change, such as a unique ID to identify the change, the title and description of the change, the date the change was submitted, the name of the person submitting the change, any risks or recommendations pertaining to the change, the owner of the change, the impact analysis including the story point count and cost, the status of the change, and any comments pertaining to the change. To date, the Reynard's Hardware and Services online store project team has received 3 requirement changes. After an impact analysis and prioritization discussion with the sponsor, it was decided that these changes will be prioritized and scheduled after Release 3.0 of the project completes.
During the creation of the statement of work with our client, Reynard Hardware and Service, we chose selection criteria to proactively manage change. This selection criteria would be used if any new requests or changes to scope occurred after the initial scope approval. This selection criteria would be used by the project manager, business analyst, and the client to review the request to see if there were changes to scope, any impact to funding, impact to the project end date, current priorities, success of the project, value added to our stakeholders, value added to our customer, or current technology. The project manager, business analyst, and the stakeholders would score low, 1, or high impact, 5. The project manager would complete the score evaluation comments to track why we scored the selection criteria for that request. Also, the project manager, business analyst, would address any risk and any needed mitigation strategy. From here, the decision can be made whether or not to move forward with the implementation.
Importance of change management. First, we'll look at managed change in a project versus unmanaged change in a project. So in a managed change, there's energy invested at the front end. There's more focus on education, communication planning, and value-added changes that will benefit the project. Not every change is bad, so when the changes are managed, the team can easily analyze which changes will benefit the project and which of them can actually impede the success of the project. There's a lower cost in risk management. The team can focus on other areas instead of just going back and trying to fix mistakes that were made or changes that were made that affected the project. Next is on managed change. In a project where change is not managed properly, there's more energy invested at the back end. The team spends a lot of time focusing on real work because there are a lot of mistakes and a lot of changes that impede the success of the project. The team also has to deal with enforcement, compliance, and supervision. This also actually costs more time and money needed for the project, hence might lead to scope creep, because if not every change is managed, then next thing you know, all the changes are costing extra time, extra resources that actually could be utilized, in other areas that could be very successful. And also, crisis management would be very difficult to.
On this next slide, we explain the importance of a contract. A contract establishes the clear roles and responsibilities of the parties involved in the contract. The contract builds on long-term relationships. It forces each party to establish expectations of the other in the form of a new relationship. A contract is also used for risk management. It can be used by the project team to transfer some of the project risk to a third party. The next section is the key contacts section. This section states the key contact names for each party defined in the contract. The audience section states that the intended audience for the contract agreement comprises the Reynard's hardware and services business owners and executives and the software development team project managers, project leaders, project sponsors, and project executives. Finally, the period of agreement section states that the Reynard's hardware and services agreement commences on the day that it is accepted and continues until such time it is formally terminated by the Reynard's hardware and Services business owner. The next section is the key contacts section. This section states the key contact names for each party defined in the contract. The audience section states that the intended audience for the contract agreement comprises the Reynard's Hardware and Services business owners and executives and the software development team project managers, project leaders, project sponsors, and project executives. Finally, the period of agreement section states that the Reynard's Hardware and Services agreement commences on the day that it is accepted and continues until such time it is formally terminated by the Reynard's Hardware and Services business owner. The next two sections of the Reynard's Hardware and Services online store project contract agreement are the contract type and price and contract terms sections. The contract type and price section of the Reynard's Hardware and Services contract agreement establishes the type of contract agreed to by both parties. The Reynard's Hardware and Services contract agreement is a cost plus incentive fee with the following targets and sharing ratio. Target cost, $18,000. Target fee, $4,000. Target price, $22,000. And sharing ratio of 70-30. The contract terms section of the Reynard's Hardware and Services contract agreement states that the software development team agrees to provide the deliverables as stated in the Reynard's Hardware and Services project statement of work, and that the Reynard's Hardware and Services business owners and delegates agree to participate in all work prioritization, planning, and review of the deliverables.
The project status update gives our project team the ideal opportunity to notify and present to Reynard Hardware and its stakeholders a glimpse of our progress and our successes. We have worked diligently to meet every requirement, and through this update we can receive feedback as to what needs improvement and what we as a team could do better. Included in this project status update is all the work we have completed thus far, as well as a roadmap for where we will go. Ultimately, we are here to provide Reynard Hardware the ideal package to set the company up for continued success.
Since our last update on 3/13/2019, we have successfully deployed online shopping Sprint 1.1, Sprint 1.2, Sprint 1.3, finished regression testing, deployed Release 1 to production, completed training, and handoff to the web developer, thus completing online shopping for Reynard Hardware and Service. Release 2, Sprint 2.1, is on schedule to be deployed for 4/30/2019. We are also on time for Sprint 2.2, which will be deployed on 5/14/2019, and we completed our requirements on 4/24 for Sprint 2.2. While we haven't begun work on Sprint 2.3, planning begins 5/5/2019. Our consulting firm used project management tools and techniques to successfully implement Release 1 for Reynard Hardware and Services. We delivered an online shopping cart for their customers to buy or pick up in-store different products. The common project management artifacts presented in this overview served as communication tools between our team and our customer, Reynard Hardware and Services. We were able to use these to outline scope, how we intended to complete the work, when we were going to complete the work, risks identified, and progress along the way of development. Together with a contract, these tools to ensure each side fulfilled their obligations. The next step for this project will be to implement Release 1 and plan for Release 3. We're excited to deliver scheduling a handyman and then identifying any enhancements that the Renard Hardware and Services team require. We look forward to more successful implementations.